In a world of noise and distraction, there is one place where wisdom still whispers, where voices of greatness echo through time. Welcome to the Motivational Library.
This audiobook is built for real people. People carrying pressure, distractions, responsibilities, and quiet self-doubt. It is not about perfection. It is about control. Control over your thoughts, your actions, and the small decisions that shape every single day. How many times have you woken up believing, today will be different, only to fall back into the same patterns by nightfall? Not because you are weak, not because you lack motivation, but because your mindset has never been trained to support the life you say you want. This book exists to change that, not through hype, not through empty motivation, but through structure, discipline, and repeatable mental systems. One choice at a time, one thought at a time, one action at a time. Inside this audiobook, you will learn how to build mental strength under pressure, stay focused when distractions pull at you, keep promises to yourself, and end each day with something rare, self-respect. The kind that comes from knowing you showed up when it mattered. This is not about temporary inspiration. It is about creating a daily system that forces progress, even on hard days. Especially on hard days. This is how real winning is built. This is how you win every single day. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Define daily wins to guide behavior. Winning every day begins with something most people ignore because it sounds too simple to matter. But simplicity is exactly where real behavioral change starts. Winning begins by deciding what a win looks like today, not someday, not when life calms down, not when conditions are perfect. Today, people don't drift through life because they lack talent or intelligence. They drift because they wake up without a clear definition of success for the next 12 to 16 hours. When a day has no definition, it fills itself with noise, distractions, obligations, and other people's priorities. Psychology is clear on this. Behavior follows clarity. When a mind knows what matters, it organizes effort around it. When a mind is uncertain, it wastes energy. Most people mistake winning for outcomes, money, status, praise, recognition, or dramatic change. Those are results. Results are delayed. Results come later. They're not daily wins. Daily wins are small, specific actions that give your day direction. When you define a daily win, you give your brain a target. And the human brain performs far better with targets than with wishes. If you wake up and say, I will win today, your mind immediately asks a quiet question. Win at what? If there is no answer, the brain defaults to comfort. Old habits, familiar patterns, short-term relief. Comfort feels safe, but comfort does not build progress. A daily win must be something you can control. You cannot fully control outcomes. You can control actions. You can control effort. You can control attitude. A win might be finishing a task you've been avoiding. A win might be staying calm in a conversation that usually pulls you into anger. A win might be showing up prepared, focused, and on time. These are not small things to the brain. The brain records them as proof. Proof of capability. Proof builds confidence. Confidence builds momentum. Many people wait for motivation before they act. But psychology shows the opposite is true. Motivation follows action. It does not precede it. When you define a daily win, you reduce the need for motivation altogether. You move from emotional decision-making to intentional behavior. You stop asking, how do I feel? And start asking, what needs to be done? That shift changes everything. Feelings rise and fall. Defined actions remain steady. When a person ends the day without knowing whether it was successful, the mind feels unsettled. That unsettled feeling often turns into self-doubt, distraction, or mental fatigue. But when a person ends the day knowing they did what they decided to do, the mind relaxes. There is peace in clarity. That peace makes it easier to show up strong tomorrow. Winning every day is not about pressure. It is about order. Order reduces stress. Disorder multiplies it. A daily win should stretch you, but not break you. If it's too easy, it won't engage your attention. If it's too big, it creates avoidance. The mind avoids what feels overwhelming. Choose wins that require effort but are realistic within a single day. This trains the brain to associate effort with completion instead of frustration. Over time, the brain becomes more willing to engage with challenges because it expects a payoff. Another critical part of defining daily wins is identity. Human behavior follows identity more than goals. When you decide what a win looks like, you are also deciding who you are practicing being today. A person who finishes what they start. A person who keeps their word. A person who responds with control instead of impulse. Identity is not built through thought. Identity is built through repeated action. Daily wins are identity reps. Most people live in reaction mode. They spend their days responding to messages, problems, demands, and interruptions. By nightfall, they feel busy but unfulfilled. Busyness is not winning. Winning feels different. Winning feels earned. When you define a daily win, you move from reaction to direction. You still handle responsibilities, but they no longer own you. You decide where your best energy goes. The mind also needs closure. When a day ends without closure, the brain keeps replaying it. This affects sleep, mood, and focus. A defined daily win gives the mind a clear endpoint. Even if the day was difficult, you can say, "This mattered," and it got done. That single statement changes how the brain stores the day. It becomes a successful day, not a wasted one. Some people avoid defining daily wins because they fear failure. They think naming a win and missing it will make them feel worse. In reality, the opposite is true. Without a defined win, failure feels vague and heavy. With a defined win, failure becomes specific and useful. You can adjust tomorrow. Clear failure is better than vague regret. Psychology favors feedback over avoidance. Daily wins also regulate emotion. Emotions spike when days feel chaotic. When you know what you're working toward, emotions become signals, not commands. Stress becomes information. Pressure no longer controls you. Winning every day does not mean every day feels good. Some days feel heavy. Some days feel slow. Some days feel uncomfortable. Winning means you did what mattered anyway. The brain learns from this. It learns that discomfort is not danger. It learns that progress does not require perfect conditions. This builds resilience quietly and steadily. Another powerful effect of daily wins is trust. Self-trust grows when actions match decisions. Every time you define a win and follow through, you send a clear message to your mind. My word matters. Over time, inner conflict fades. You stop negotiating with yourself. You decide and you act. That alignment creates strength. People often search for confidence as a feeling, but confidence is built through evidence. Daily wins are evidence. Not dramatic proof, consistent proof. Proof that you can direct your behavior. Proof that you're not stuck. Proof that change is possible. The mind believes evidence more than affirmations. Defining daily wins also protects you from comparison. When you know what winning means for you today, other people's progress loses its power. You respect it, but you don't chase it. Comparison fades when purpose is clear. Purpose creates focus. Focus creates peace. At the end of the day, review your win. Acknowledge it calmly, not with exaggeration, not with dismissal. The brain responds to acknowledgement. This is not pride, it is reinforcement. Reinforcement strengthens behavior. Ignore your wins, and the brain looks elsewhere for reward. Notice your wins, and the brain wants to repeat them. Over time, daily wins compound. Quietly, naturally, skills sharpen, habits stabilize, emotions steady, confidence grows. Others will notice before you do. This is the psychology of winning every day. It is not loud. It is not flashy. It is reliable. Winning begins when you wake up and decide what matters today. 1 or 2 things done well is enough. Do not overload the day. Overloading leads to quitting. Choose clarity over volume. Choose intention over noise. Choose direction over drift. If today feels heavy, start small. A small win still counts. The brain does not measure size the way the ego does. It measures completion. Completion teaches the brain that effort leads somewhere. That lesson is priceless. Winning every day is not about being better than others. It is about being better than yesterday in a way that is real and lived. Define the win. Live the win. Review the win. Rest. Then do it again tomorrow. This is how ordinary days become a strong life. Chapter 2. Train attention to spot small victories. Most people don't struggle because they fail too often. They struggle because they fail to notice progress that is already happening. The human mind is naturally drawn to what is missing, what is wrong, and what still needs fixing. This is not a flaw in character. It is conditioning. From early on, attention is trained toward problems, mistakes, and gaps. That training keeps people alert, but it also quietly steals momentum. Winning every day requires retraining attention, not to ignore reality, not to pretend things are perfect, but to notice small victories as they happen. Attention is powerful because whatever it rests on grows in importance. When attention stays locked on flaws, effort feels heavy. When attention learns to recognize progress, effort feels worthwhile. Psychology shows that behavior strengthens when the brain receives regular signals of success. Those signals do not need to be dramatic. They only need to be noticed. A small victory might be starting when you wanted to delay. It might be choosing calm words instead of sharp ones. It might be staying focused 10 minutes longer than usual. These moments pass quickly, but they shape behavior deeply. When attention misses them, the brain records the day as neutral or negative. When attention catches them, the brain records progress. And progress fuels persistence. Most people wait for big wins to feel encouraged. Big wins are rare by nature. Small wins are frequent, but invisible to untrained attention. Training attention is not positive thinking. It is accurate thinking. It is seeing what is actually happening instead of only what is lacking. Accuracy builds stability. Stability builds confidence. Attention can be trained like any other skill. It begins with slowing down just enough to notice what you did right, even when the outcome was imperfect. If only perfection counts, the brain learns to quit early. If effort, improvement, and follow-through are acknowledged, the brain learns to stay engaged. There's a quiet emotional reward that comes from noticing small victories. It is not excitement. It is satisfaction. Satisfaction steadies the mind. A steady mind makes better decisions. Better decisions improve behavior. This cycle repeats quietly, day after day. Many people live under constant internal pressure because their attention is always scanning for what went wrong. That pressure drains energy. When attention expands to include what went right, pressure softens. Energy returns. This is not denial of problems. It is balance. Balanced attention sees the whole picture. As attention improves, emotional regulation improves. The brain reacts strongly to perceived failure. When small victories are noticed, perceived failure shrinks, even if challenges remain. Emotional spikes decrease. Calm increases. Calm allows better choices. Training attention to spot small victories also builds resilience. Resilience is not just toughness. It is recovery. Recovery happens faster when the mind remembers progress instead of replaying disappointment. Small victories act as anchors during difficult days. Another benefit is self-respect. Self-respect grows when effort is acknowledged. Ignored effort feels wasted. Acknowledged effort feels meaningful. Meaning sustains action, especially during long projects or personal change where results arrive slowly. The mind learns through repetition. If attention repeatedly highlights failure, the brain expects failure. If attention repeatedly highlights progress, the brain expects improvement. Expectations shape behavior. People who expect progress show up differently. They are more patient, more prepared, more willing to try again. Training attention does not mean celebrating everything. It means being honest about growth. Growth is often quiet. Attention must be intentional to see it. This is a daily practice. At the end of the day, pause long enough to recall moments where you chose effort, clarity, or restraint. These moments matter. Some people resist noticing their own wins because they confuse it with arrogance. There's nothing arrogant about accuracy. Ignoring progress does not create humility. It creates discouragement. Healthy confidence comes from honest evaluation. Honest evaluation includes both wins and areas to improve. Small victories also shape identity. Each noticed when reinforces a self-image of capability. Identity shifts slowly, but it shifts. A person who notices progress begins to believe change is possible. Belief influences behavior. Behavior reinforces belief. This loop is powerful. Attention is also contagious. When you notice your own progress, you begin to notice effort in others. Conversations improve. Encouragement becomes natural. Relationships strengthen. People respond better to those who recognize effort, not just results. Many people believe motivation comes from excitement. More often, motivation comes from meaning. Small victories provide meaning because they show effort is going somewhere. The brain likes progress, even slow progress. Progress signals safety and possibility. Training attention also reduces burnout. Burnout often comes from long effort without recognition. When recognition becomes internal, burnout loses its grip. You no longer wait for others to notice. You become your own witness. This practice also sharpens focus. When a mind expects to notice wins, it stays engaged longer. Distraction decreases. Attention becomes purposeful instead of restless. Some days will not offer obvious wins. On those days, attention must look deeper. Did you stay patient? Did you avoid quitting? Did you keep your word? These are victories of character. Character wins matter more than comfort wins. They shape the future. The goal is not to inflate the day. The goal is to see it clearly. Clear sight builds strength. Strength builds consistency. Consistency builds results. Winning every day depends on where attention lives. If attention lives only on the finish line, the present feels empty. If attention lives in daily effort, the present feels meaningful. Meaning makes discipline sustainable. As attention trains over time, confidence becomes quieter and stronger. You no longer need constant reassurance. You trust the process because you can see it working. That trust reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety improves performance. This is how small victories create large change. Not through excitement, but through repetition. Attention notices effort. Effort continues. Change follows. Train attention daily. Not forcefully, but honestly. Notice when you did slightly better than yesterday. Notice when you stayed engaged. Notice when you chose growth over comfort. These moments shape your psychology more than any dramatic event. Winning every day is not about loud success. It is about steady awareness. Awareness directs behavior. Behavior builds life. Chapter 3. Choose thoughts that increase daily confidence. Confidence is not something you are born with or denied at birth. Confidence is built quietly through the thoughts you choose to repeat every single day. Thoughts are not harmless background noise. They are instructions. The mind listens, even when you're not paying attention. Whatever you tell it consistently, it begins to accept as truth. That truth shapes behavior. Behavior shapes results. Results reinforce belief. This cycle runs every day, whether you guide it or not. Most people believe confidence comes from success. In reality, success often comes from confidence that was built before results ever appeared. Confidence is not pretending everything will work out. It is choosing thoughts that keep you steady enough to act. A confident person is not free of doubt. They simply do not allow doubt to run the day. Each morning, the mind starts making quiet comments about what lies ahead. Some are useful, many are not. Left unchecked, the mind often leans toward caution, fear, and memories of past disappointment. This is normal. The brain is wired to protect you by reminding you of what went wrong before. Protection has value. Overprotection causes shrinking. Confidence grows when you learn to challenge automatic thoughts and replace them with stronger ones. Choosing confidence-based thoughts does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing thoughts that help you deal with reality effectively. If a thought causes hesitation, withdrawal, or self-doubt, it weakens confidence. If a thought reminds you that you have handled difficulty before, it strengthens confidence. Both thoughts might be true. Only one moves you forward. The mind believes repetition more than logic. One strong thought, repeated daily, is more powerful than 100 motivational speeches heard once. This is why the inner voice matters so much. That voice speaks all day long. The question is whether it is training you or draining you. Many people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to another person. Harsh judgment, constant reminders of failure, exaggeration of mistakes. Confidence cannot survive abuse, even when that abuse comes from inside. Choosing better thoughts is not softness. It is strategy. Strong confidence-building thoughts are grounded in effort, not outcome. Thoughts like I can handle this step or I will stay engaged, even if this feels uncomfortable, create stability. These thoughts do not promise success. They promise presence. Presence is powerful. When you stay present, you make better decisions. Better decisions improve results. Results reinforce confidence. Another category of confidence-building thoughts focuses on learning instead of judgment. When something goes wrong, the mind often jumps to labels like failure or weakness. These labels shut confidence down. A learning-focused thought asks, what can I adjust next time? Confidence remains intact while improvement continues. Confidence also grows when thoughts align with personal values. When your thoughts remind you why something matters, effort feels meaningful. Meaning reduces fear. Fear loses power when purpose is clear. One reason people lose confidence is because they demand certainty before action. The mind says, act when you're sure. Confidence grows when you reverse that order. You act while unsure and build confidence through experience. Thoughts like, I don't need to know everything to begin create momentum. The brain responds to consistency. When you choose steady, constructive thoughts daily, the brain begins to expect competence. That expectation changes posture, tone, and decision-making. Others often notice the shift before you do. Confidence shows up in how you speak, how you listen, how you respond. Chosen thoughts also regulate emotion. Strong emotions distort perception. When emotions rise, the mind exaggerates danger. A simple thought like I can slow this down restores balance. Balance brings clarity. Clarity supports confidence. Thoughts do not need to be loud to be effective. Quiet reminders repeated often carry more weight than dramatic statements. The goal is not excitement. The goal is steadiness. Steady confidence lasts. Choosing confidence-based thoughts also protects you from comparison. Comparison weakens confidence because it shifts attention outward. Thoughts that return attention to your own effort and progress strengthen self-trust. Self-trust is the core of confidence. Many people believe confidence means feeling fearless. In reality, confidence means feeling fear and acting anyway. Thoughts that normalize fear instead of fighting it allow confidence to grow. Fear loses power when it is acknowledged and managed. Confidence also grows through preparation. Prepared people feel capable. Thoughts that encourage preparation instead of worry move energy into action. Action builds confidence faster than reassurance ever will. The mind also needs permission to succeed. Some people carry unspoken beliefs that they should not stand out or improve fully. Choosing thoughts that allow growth removes these hidden limits. Permission is powerful. Confidence is also shaped by self-talk after setbacks. When things go wrong, the thoughts you choose determine whether confidence collapses or stabilizes. Separating behavior from identity preserves confidence. This didn't work is very different from I am incapable. Choosing thoughts is a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Some days the mind resists. On those days, confidence comes from discipline, not feeling. You choose better thoughts because they serve you, not because they feel natural. Over time, the mind adapts. What once required effort becomes automatic. Confidence becomes a habit instead of a struggle. Habits shape destiny quietly. Winning every day requires mental leadership. You lead your thoughts instead of following them. Leadership creates inner order. Inner order creates outer effectiveness. Confidence does not demand perfection. It demands honesty and persistence. Thoughts that support those qualities are worth repeating. As confidence grows, action becomes simpler. You hesitate less. You second-guess less. You recover faster. Recovery speed is one of the clearest signs of real confidence. Confident people do not avoid mistakes. They move through them. Choosing thoughts that increase daily confidence is not about controlling every thought. It is about choosing which thoughts get your agreement. You may hear doubt, but you do not have to endorse it. Confidence also changes how you rest. When you trust yourself, rest becomes recovery, not escape. Recovered people show up stronger. Strength reinforces confidence. Every day offers practice. Small moments matter. The thought you choose before a conversation, before a task, before a decision shapes the outcome. Confidence built this way is durable. It does not collapse under pressure because it is built on action, learning, and self-trust. Winning every day begins inside. Choose thoughts that keep you capable, steady, and willing. Those thoughts shape behavior. Behavior shapes life. Chapter 4. Act early to create winning momentum. Starting early is one of the simplest and most powerful ways to win the day. Most people don't lose momentum because they lack ability. They lose it because they wait too long to begin. Hesitation grows. Overthinking creeps in. Doubt starts negotiating with action. Before they realize it, the first opportunity to lead the day has passed. Winning is not reserved for the smartest or the most talented. It belongs to those who begin. Early action puts you ahead, not just in results, but in mindset. It clears mental clutter. It lowers anxiety. It turns pressure into purpose. The earlier you act, the faster you feel in control of your day. When you start late, your energy is already divided. Message arrive. Distractions get louder. Mental clarity weakens. But when you act early, before the noise takes over, you create clean space. You set the tone instead of reacting to it. Momentum does not come from waiting to feel ready. The perfect time is an illusion. The right mood is unreliable. Early action does not ask permission from emotion. It moves anyway. If you want to win every day, you cannot leave your morning to chance. You must decide what matters and move toward it while the rest of the world is still deciding what to do. That decision creates power. That movement creates freedom. Starting early does not mean waking up at 4 in the morning or copying someone else's routine. It means acting before resistance builds. It means taking one meaningful step before doubt starts negotiating with your goals. Human behavior is shaped by momentum. When you complete something early, your brain registers a win. That win releases dopamine, the chemical tied to motivation and focus. This is not theory. It is biology. Dopamine encourages continued action. One completed step makes the next step easier. Momentum feeds itself. Waiting, on the other hand, drains energy. Most people underestimate how heavy waiting feels. Not waiting for others, but waiting on themselves. Knowing what to do. Thinking about it. Delaying it. That space between knowing and doing is where stress grows. At first it feels small. Then it becomes mental clutter. Then it becomes resistance. The antidote is action. Not massive action. Not overwhelming effort. Just movement. Once you move, hesitation loses power. There is a deep psychological benefit to acting early. Self-trust. When you do what you said you would do, without delay, you strengthen your relationship with yourself. You stop second-guessing. You stop hiding behind distraction. You show up for your own potential. Self-trust builds confidence. Confidence builds consistency. Consistency builds progress. That chain begins with one early decision. You do not have to solve the entire day. You do not have to dominate your to-do list. You only need to take the first action that matters. Often, the smallest step breaks the strongest resistance. It might be starting the task you've been avoiding, sending the message you've delayed, moving your body, writing for 10 minutes. That first move is not small to the brain. It signals leadership. It tells your mind the day has started, and you are in charge. Many people waste time in the name of planning. Planning has value, but over-planning is often fear disguised as productivity. It keeps you busy while avoiding the discomfort of beginning. Nothing creates clarity like action. Once you move, your mind adjusts. Focus sharpens. Problems that felt heavy in your head become manageable in motion. Clarity comes from doing, not from thinking. The more often you act early, the more momentum becomes part of your identity. You stop being someone who waits and become someone who leads. You lead your time. You lead your choices. You lead your effort. That leadership creates personal power. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop demanding perfection before action. This is where freedom begins. Early action also stabilizes emotion. Stress builds when tasks are delayed. Deadlines feel heavier. Avoided conversations grow louder. Mental pressure increases. Acting early removes that buildup before it starts. Pressure drops. Clarity rises. Decisions improve. There's also something deeply grounding about ending a day knowing you began strong. When you start early, the day feels like it belongs to you. You're not catching up. You're setting the pace. That feeling is not ego. It is alignment. Momentum does not happen by accident. It is earned. Every day offers the same choice. Wait and hope the day goes well, or act early and make it go well. The difference is not luck. It is the first hour, the first decision, the first step. If you win the start, the rest becomes easier. Winning every day begins by winning the beginning. Not with pressure, not with unrealistic expectations, but with intentional movement. One thing that matters. One step taken without delay. That action starts a chain. That chain shapes the day. Those days shape a life. People who win consistently do not have easier lives. They do not feel ready all the time. They simply master the habit of showing up early. They act before fear takes control. They move before the world demands their attention. They do not wait for life to move. They move first. You do not need to start big. You only need to start now. Winning lives in the quiet decision to begin while others hesitate. Build that habit, slowly if needed, and you become difficult to stop. Not because life gets easier, but because you no longer wait for permission. Decide early. Act early. Let the day feel like yours. That is how you win every day. Chapter 5. Regulate emotions to protect daily performance. Most people don't struggle because they lack intelligence or talent. They struggle because they don't manage their emotions. One moment of frustration can derail an entire day. One surge of self-doubt can cancel hours of focus. One careless reaction can throw your mindset off course. This is not weakness. It is human nature. But if you want to win every day, you must understand this truth. Your emotions directly affect your performance. You can have clear plans, strong goals, and good intentions, but when emotions take over, structure breaks down. Regulating emotion is not pretending everything is fine. It is knowing how to stay steady when things are not. You will feel stress, fear, anger, sadness, frustration, disappointment, and confusion. These emotions are valid. They are part of being alive. But emotions are messengers, not decision makers. They inform you. They do not get to control you. When emotion drives behavior, reactions become short-term and progress suffers. When you pause, reflect, and choose your response, you protect your performance from being hijacked. One of the most powerful skills on a high-pressure day is the pause. The pause might last only 3 seconds, but in those seconds, control returns to you. Without it, emotion speaks first and reason is silenced. With it, you notice what you're feeling instead of acting blindly from it. Awareness is the foundation of emotional regulation. You cannot manage what you do not notice. The unaware person reacts automatically. The aware person gains the chance to lead themselves. Your ability to regulate emotion also protects your energy. Unregulated emotion drains you, even when nothing changes externally. Anger tightens the body. Anxiety shortens the breath. Overwhelm clouds thinking. Emotional discipline is not just about calm. It is about preserving energy for what matters. There's a cost to reacting to everything. It costs focus. It costs clarity. It costs momentum. When you regulate emotion, you stop wasting energy on arguments that don't matter. You stop replaying moments that no longer serve you. You stop carrying other people's emotional weight into your own decisions. You stay grounded in what you are building, not what momentarily upset you. Another key to emotional regulation is understanding your triggers. Everyone has them. Criticism, uncertainty, mistakes, feeling ignored. The goal is not to avoid triggers. It is to recognize them. When you know your patterns, you can prepare. You create space between emotion and action. That space is where growth happens. A powerful question in emotional moments is, what story am I telling myself right now? Often, emotion is fueled not by what happened, but by the meaning we attach to it. A delayed message becomes I'm being ignored. A mistake becomes I'm not capable. These stories intensify emotion. When you question the story, you regain perspective. You don't deny reality. You choose a more useful interpretation. Emotion also changes how you speak to yourself. When emotions rise, inner dialogue often turns harsh. You always mess this up. Why can't you get it right? That voice weakens confidence fast. Regulating emotion includes learning to speak to yourself with clarity, not cruelty. You can acknowledge disappointment without self-attack. You can recognize fear without labeling yourself weak. That shift creates mental stability. Movement is another essential tool. Emotion lives in the body. Physical movement helps release it. Walking, stretching, deep breathing, these are not distractions. They are regulation tools. You are not avoiding emotion. You are allowing it to move through you. Suppressing emotion does not work. What is pushed down leaks out as tension, irritability, or burnout. Regulation means allowing emotion while choosing response. Feeling without surrendering control. You also protect performance by regulating what you expose yourself to. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every opinion requires engagement. You can care without carrying. You can listen without absorbing. Emotional discipline includes knowing when to step back. Some days will feel heavy from the start. On those days, the goal is not intensity, it is steadiness. Reduce pressure. Simplify the plan. Focus on basic, controllable actions. Progress matters more than perfection. Ignoring emotional weight leads to burnout. Meeting it with structure and self-respect allows you to keep moving forward. Protecting daily performance is not about emotional numbness. It is emotional intelligence. The ability to feel fully without being controlled. To slow down in a world that demands reaction. Every time you regulate emotion instead of reacting, you reinforce self-leadership. You prove to yourself that impulse does not own you. That proof builds confidence. Not loud confidence, but quiet strength. Emotion will always be part of life. It will always show up. But when you learn to observe it, understand it, and respond with intention, you gain power. That power keeps you focused. It keeps you grounded. It protects your momentum. Winning every day is not only about strategy or discipline. It is about emotional maturity. It is about staying steady when things feel uncertain. Handling challenge without letting it break your rhythm. You won't get it right every time. Some days emotion will win. That's human. But reflection, adjustment, and return are still progress. Each pause rewires your response. Each calm choice builds strength. And that strength protects your performance. Not once, but every day. When you review your day consistently, something subtle but powerful happens. You stop needing constant motivation. You stop relying on mood. You begin to trust yourself. That trust is built every night you sit with your actions and face them honestly. You become someone who finishes the day with intention. That matters, because life doesn't change in dramatic breakthroughs. It changes in quiet evaluations, in the moments when no one is watching, in the decision to pause instead of collapse into distraction, in the discipline to ask, did I live today on purpose? Review trains responsibility without punishment. It keeps your standards clear without turning them into pressure. You learn to correct without attacking yourself. You improve without losing confidence. This habit compounds. One review day turns into a reviewed week. A reviewed week sharpens your month. And months of awareness reshape your identity. You stop drifting. You stop guessing. You stop repeating mistakes unconsciously. Instead, you evolve deliberately. People who win consistently are not obsessed with outcomes. They are obsessed with awareness. They pay attention to what works, reinforce it, and return to it again and again. That is how momentum becomes permanent. Do not underestimate this practice. Ending the day with awareness is an act of leadership. You're leading your future self by learning from your present one. When you review, you reclaim your time. When you review, you strengthen discipline. When you review, you turn effort into progress. The day ends either unconsciously or deliberately. Choose deliberately, because the person who reviews today shows up stronger tomorrow. And the person who shows up stronger tomorrow wins again. That is how progress becomes inevitable. Chapter 6. Reinforce success by reviewing each day. Most people move through their days trying to do more. They wake up, jump into motion, answer messages, handle responsibilities, and push through long schedules. When the day finally ends, they shut down as fast as possible. And in doing so, they skip one of the most important habits for real growth. They don't review the day. Reviewing may sound simple, even boring, but it is one of the strongest disciplines you can build. Not for guilt, not for judgment, but for awareness, reinforcement, and self-leadership. You do not grow from effort alone. You grow from effort that is noticed, understood, and repeated. You don't change your life by doing something once. You change it by doing it, reflecting on it, and locking in what works. If you want to win every day, the day cannot end without one clear question. What did I actually do today that moved me forward? Success does not stick by accident. It sticks because it is acknowledged. The brain needs confirmation. It needs to know that the effort mattered, that pushing through resistance had value. When progress goes unnoticed, the mind forgets it. And what the mind forgets, it does not repeat. This is why so many people feel stuck even while working hard. They move constantly, but they never pause. They act, but they don't extract lessons. Without review, even progress fades into background noise. A few quiet minutes at the end of the day changes everything. When you reflect, patterns become visible. You start to see what strengthens you and what drains you. You notice which thoughts helped and which distracted you. You see how your time was actually used, not how you planned it in your head, but how it truly unfolded. That honesty turns every day into a lesson, not a lecture, a lesson built on truth. And truth creates clarity. Clarity creates consistency. Consistency creates momentum. Reviewing your day is not about overanalyzing every detail. It is about honest check-in. Did I show up the way I intended? What was one thing I did well today? What challenged me? And how did I respond? Where did I lose focus? And what helped me regain it? These questions are practical. They train your mind to recognize winning behaviors and adjust quickly. You don't need a long journal or a complicated system. Even 5 minutes of reflection before sleep begins to train your mind to lead itself. You stop drifting through days hoping for progress and start shaping habits based on what actually works for you. That is the difference between growth and repetition. Many people repeat the same year over and over and call it experience. Not because they don't try, but because they never review. They also underestimate how much they do in a single day. They end the night feeling behind, not because they failed, but because they never stop to notice progress. That creates unnecessary discouragement. Review gives you proof. Not hype, not motivation. Proof. Maybe the progress was small, maybe imperfect, but it was forward, and forward is enough. Daily review also builds emotional strength. You begin to see how your mood influenced your actions. You notice which environment supported you and which drained you. That awareness helps you plan better, to rest when needed, push when appropriate, and set boundaries with intention. That level of self-awareness gives you control over how you show up tomorrow. There is also power in ending the day with your own voice. Most of life is spent responding to others, their needs, opinions, and expectations. Review belongs to you. It is private. It is quiet. It is where you measure yourself by your own standards, not external approval. That is where real confidence forms. Review also removes guesswork. Instead of judging the day by how it felt, which is often distorted by one frustrating moment, you rely on facts. What you did, what you followed through on, what you handled with discipline. This keeps you grounded. You don't get inflated by success or crushed by setbacks. Even more important, review creates the blueprint for tomorrow. You don't start each day from zero. You carry forward what worked and release what didn't. Each day becomes less chaotic, more intentional, more aligned. That is real progress. This habit also protects you from burnout. Burnout rarely comes from doing too much. It comes from feeling like effort doesn't matter. Review reminds you that your actions count, even if no one else sees them. And when you know your effort matters, you stop chasing validation and start moving with calm purpose. Some days will feel messy. Some plans will fall apart. But even on those days, review gives you something valuable. It allows you to say, here's what I did right, even when it was hard. That is resilience. Review also sharpens learning. The brain remembers more when it revisits experience. Reflection strengthens memory, improves judgment, and builds better instincts. You make smarter decisions because you've already examined similar moments with awareness. Make review a checkpoint, not a punishment. You are not reviewing to criticize yourself. You are reviewing to support yourself. To say, I'm paying attention. I care how I live. I'm not wasting my days on autopilot. Even a simple habit, like writing down 3 good actions from the day, begins to rewire your mind. Over time, you start noticing progress naturally. You repeat what works. Strong habits form through awareness and repetition, not motivation alone. You're not just building better days. You're building a better version of yourself. Do not let your effort go unnoticed. Give yourself the discipline of reflection. Look at how you lived, not to judge, but to learn, to lock in what works and release what doesn't. The day is not finished until it is reviewed. That is the mark of someone serious about growth. Not someone perfect, but someone paying attention. And when you pay attention to your life, it begins to change. Slowly, quietly, permanently. That is what winning every day truly means. Chapter 7. Replace excuses with responsibility every day. Excuses are easy. They appear without effort, offering comfort, relief, and a way to avoid discomfort. But every excuse carries a cost. Every excuse steals your power and hands it to something outside yourself. That's the trap. Excuses sound reasonable, even smart, but underneath them lies one truth, a choice to avoid responsibility. And without responsibility, there is no growth. Winning every day begins with taking full ownership. Stop explaining your choices. Stop pointing outward. Start looking inward, not to assign blame, but to reclaim control. Responsibility is where change begins. When something goes wrong, your first instinct may be to blame the circumstances, the weather, the timing, other people, your schedule, or your mood. All that feels fair, but none of it decides your actions. You do. Every time you own your part, you grow stronger. Every time you say, that was on me, you gain power. Responsibility is not heavy. Avoiding it is. Life doesn't get easier. You get better at handling it. That starts with honesty. Missed a goal? Own it. Lost focus? Own it. Failed to follow through? Own it. Responsibility creates room to move. Excuses lock you in place. Responsibility sets you free. Responsibility isn't guilt. It isn't self-punishment. It's maturity. It's showing up for your choices, facing hard truths, and doing what needs to be done, even when it's uncomfortable. Excuses waste time. Responsibility multiplies it. Hours spent defending why something didn't happen could be spent changing your approach. Replacing excuses with responsibility is a mindset shift. It's no longer about arguing with yourself or justifying an action. It's about asking one question instead. What part of this can I own? That question puts your energy into motion. It takes the weight off emotion and places it on action. You don't need to feel perfect to act responsibly. You just need to care enough about your future to stop delaying your progress. Every time you catch yourself thinking, "I didn't have time," correct it. Say, "I chose to spend it differently." Truth, even when uncomfortable, is powerful, and power fuels improvement. Responsibility transforms identity. Excuses tie who you are to circumstances. Responsibility ties who you are to your values. You stop saying, "That's just how I am," and start saying, "That's something I can improve." You stop defending limits and start expanding them. That shift changes everything. Responsibility builds trust. People notice when you own your mistakes without deflecting. They see clarity, dependability, and integrity. That creates influence and leadership, first over yourself, then over the world around you. Excuses create noise. Responsibility clears it. Excuses make you reactive. Responsibility makes you proactive. Excuses dwell on the past. Responsibility brings you to the present. And that is where real change happens. Not in the circumstances you cannot control, but in the choices you make right now. You can't control every outcome, but you can control your preparation, your effort, your discipline, your response, and your growth. That is responsibility. That is the foundation of consistency. And consistency is the engine of progress. Start small. Notice when you want to blame, catch it, and replace it. Ask yourself, what can I own here? Habits form not from perfection, but from repeated honesty. Obstacles will come. You will still face setbacks. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you are human. But responsibility turns setbacks into signals. Signals to improve. Signals to adjust. Signals to act differently next time. That is how responsible people think. They don't waste energy resisting reality. They use it as fuel. Responsibility strengthens confidence. When you know you are in charge of your life, you stop waiting for motivation or perfect conditions. You act. Action aligned with ownership builds confidence quietly but powerfully. Excuses feel safe, but they weaken potential. Responsibility may feel uncomfortable at first, but it strengthens you in ways comfort never will. Those who win every day aren't immune to challenges. What sets them apart is the habit of responsibility. They don't deny the hard parts. They move through them. They don't spend the day explaining why they couldn't. They spend it discovering how they can. Each time you replace an excuse with responsibility, you step closer to someone who can be relied on by others and, most importantly, by yourself. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and start creating better results through ownership. Winning isn't about having it all together. It's about choosing responsibility for what you can control every single day. No matter how it feels, no matter how things look, that is the habit. That is the mindset. That is how you move forward. Responsibility isn't given. It is claimed. And when you claim it, you become unstoppable. Chapter 8. Practice consistency to build a winning identity. Winning is not created in big moments. It is created in repetition. What you do once may feel powerful, but what you do consistently defines who you become. Most people chase breakthroughs. They wait for motivation. They look for dramatic shifts. But identity is not built in spikes. It is built in patterns. The way you show up when no one is watching. The way you speak to yourself. The way you handle discomfort, boredom, and resistance. These quiet behaviors repeated daily form the strongest foundation you will ever stand on. Consistency is not perfection. It is alignment. It is doing the right things often enough that they begin to shape how you see yourself. One action does not change identity. Repetition does. Meditating once feels nice. Meditating consistently changes who you believe you are. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries. You become someone who practices. And once identity shifts, behavior follows naturally. You no longer force action. You express who you are. Every action you take is a vote. Not for what you want, but for who you are becoming. One strong day does not define you. 5 quiet, disciplined days in a row begin to. Consistency is built in the moments that feel small, boring, uncomfortable, and unseen. That is where identity is forged. Not in intensity, but in reliability. Not in excitement, but in follow-through. One of the greatest lies people believe is that motivation leads to action. Motivation is unstable. It comes and goes. If your progress depends on how you feel, you will stay inconsistent. Winners do not rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They act because it is part of who they are, not because it feels exciting. Consistency trains discipline without drama. The brain learns through patterns. Repeated behavior becomes expected behavior. Resistance fades. Decision fatigue disappears. You stop negotiating with yourself and start moving automatically. That is freedom, the freedom that comes from structure. There's a quiet confidence born only from consistency. Not loud, not ego-driven, real. It comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, from proving, through action, that you show up even when it's hard. That confidence becomes your anchor when life applies pressure. You don't panic because you've trained for this. Not with words, but with habits. Consistency is also self-respect in action. It says, I matter enough to keep my word to myself, even when tired, even when uncertain, even when no one notices. That message rewires how you think, how you act, and how you speak to yourself. Many people constantly restart. New plans, new routines, new promises. Not because they don't care, but because staying consistent is uncomfortable. It exposes weakness. It demands patience. But progress doesn't come from changing plans. It comes from committing to one long enough to grow through it. The strongest identity you can build is this. I follow through. Someone who finishes. Someone who shows up. Someone who keeps going. That identity carries you through low days, distractions, and pressure because you don't need to decide who you are anymore. You've proven it. Consistency compounds. 10 ordinary days stacked together begin to change your thinking. Your confidence stabilizes. Your routines become cleaner. Your focus sharpens. Your energy stops leaking. That's not luck. That's identity in motion. To build consistency, simplify. Complexity kills habits. Make your actions clear, repeatable, and realistic. The goal is not intensity, it's repetition. Protect consistency from perfectionism. Missing once is not failure. Quitting is. The real strength is in how quickly you return. That bounce back builds more discipline than never missing at all. Consistency is not broken by imperfection. It is strengthened by recovery. Over time, consistency builds evidence. Evidence destroys doubt. When your mind questions your discipline, your actions answer. Proof replaces opinion. Belief becomes grounded. Momentum becomes inevitable. Your identity is not fixed. It is trained. And the most powerful way to train it is through daily consistency. Not when it's easy, not when it's exciting, but when it's ordinary. Start small. Stay honest. Keep moving. Let each day cast a quiet vote for the person you are becoming. You won't need to convince anyone. Your patterns will speak. Your life will reflect the strength of your discipline. This is how a winning identity is built. Not through hype, through repetition, through commitment, through consistency. If you want to win every day, this practice is not optional. It is a structure that holds everything together. And once consistency becomes who you are, everything else becomes easier. Chapter 9. Learn from losses without losing confidence. No one enjoys losing. It stings. It shakes your certainty. It brings doubt to the surface. But if you're serious about growth, if you are serious about winning every day, you must understand this clearly. Loss is not the enemy. Loss is information. It is feedback. It is part of the process of becoming sharper, stronger, and more capable. What breaks most people is not the loss itself. It's the story they tell themselves because of it. The meaning they attach to one moment and turn into a verdict on who they are. That is where confidence dies. And that is also where discipline begins. There is a critical difference between failing at something and believing you are a failure. Most people never separate the two. So when something goes wrong, they don't analyze the action. They attack their identity. Confidence cannot survive in that environment. You must create space between the outcome and who you are becoming. You lost this round. That does not mean you are someone who loses. You made a mistake. That does not make you a mistake. If you want to keep moving forward, you must protect your belief in yourself even when the results don't look good yet. Learning from a loss does not mean ignoring it. It means facing it directly, calmly, honestly, without drama. You extract the lesson and discard the self-attack. Confidence is not built by pretending. It is built by reflection. The strongest people are not those who never lose. They're the ones who know how to lose correctly. They ask disciplined questions. What did I miss? Where did I hesitate? What assumption led me here? Where did emotion override strategy? These are not questions of blame. They are questions of responsibility. Responsibility leads to clarity. Clarity restores confidence. Loss is emotionally loud. That's why most people rush past it or bury it. But what you refuse to examine, you repeat. And repeated mistakes turn into patterns. Patterns shape identity. That's why reflection is not punishment. It's protection. Pay close attention to how you speak to yourself after a setback. That voice in your head will either train you or sabotage you. If it says, "You always mess this up," your confidence will shrink no matter how capable you are. But if it says, "This hurts, but we'll learn and adjust," your confidence can grow even in failure. Your brain believes what you repeat. One loss does not erase your progress. One mistake does not cancel the work you've done. You are not starting over. You are continuing with more information. That framing keeps you grounded instead of reactive. Confidence grows when you refuse to quit your effort just because the result disappointed you. There's quiet power in showing up the day after a loss and choosing to work again. That decision builds a kind of confidence no outcome can take from you. It doesn't rely on praise. It doesn't need proof. It lasts. Loss also reveals what matters. If it didn't matter, it wouldn't hurt. Use that pain as direction. Ask yourself why this matters. What are you really building? When you reconnect with your reason, your strength returns. When the why is clear, the how becomes steadier. Remember this too. You are comparing your hardest moments to other people's highlight reels. That comparison will lie to you. Everyone loses. Everyone struggles. You're not broken. You're in process. And every time you face a loss and grow from it, you develop a skill most people never master. Stop making losses personal. Start making them educational. You don't have to deny the disappointment, but you do have to stop letting it define you. What defines you is what you do next. You can shrink or sharpen. You can hide or engage. That choice is always yours. Take a breath. Reclaim your posture. Get back in emotion. Let the loss remind you that you are someone who recovers, someone who adapts, someone who learns. That mindset is more valuable than any temporary win. Sometimes growth requires perspective. Talk through losses with people who believe in effort, not just outcomes. Track your lessons. Write them down. Over time, you'll see the truth. Your confidence is not built on always being right. It's built on always getting back up. Real confidence is not having all the answers. It's trusting yourself to respond well no matter what happens. When you can lose without tearing yourself down, fear loses its power over you. You are not your results. You are your patterns. And if your pattern is to reflect, adjust, and return stronger, then you are winning, even on the days it doesn't look like it yet. Keep learning. Keep believing. Losing something does not mean you lost everything. You can still rise. You can still grow. And that steady, earned belief, that's real confidence. Chapter 10. Repeat winning behaviors until they stick. Real change is never created in a single moment. It is created through repetition. One good day does not transform your life. One focused hour does not rewrite your future. One strong decision is only the beginning. What shapes you, what builds a version of you that wins consistently, is what you do again and again. Winning behaviors must be repeated until they feel natural, until they stop feeling like effort, until they become automatic. This is where most people fall off. They try something new, feel a burst of progress, and then let it fade. Not because they are weak, but because they expect motivation to carry them forward. Motivation fades. Repetition remains. Repetition builds rhythm. Rhythm builds structure. Structure builds identity. If you want behaviors to stick, they must move from something you attempt occasionally to something you practice daily. Your brain does not change through intention alone. It changes through action, repeated action. You can study discipline, talk about habits, plan endlessly, but your mind only rewires when your body shows up consistently. That is how effort turns into instinct. That is biology, not luck. And it is available to anyone willing to stay with the process. Repeating winning behaviors is rarely exciting. It is often quiet, sometimes boring, almost always unseen. But those quiet actions are what create lasting success. Waking up on time, finishing what you start, reviewing your day, staying calm under pressure, showing up when no one is watching. These are not dramatic acts, but they win again and again until they become non-negotiable. The more you repeat, the less resistance you feel. That inner voice that says, skip it, delay it, it doesn't matter, loses its power. Because your actions are no longer based on emotion. They are based on a system. And systems do not negotiate with feelings. Systems move you forward even when motivation is low. When something works, repeat it. Don't wait to feel inspired. Repeat what brings clarity. Repeat what creates results. Repeat what holds you accountable. Most people abandon good routines because they crave novelty. But growth is not about entertainment. It is about effectiveness. And effectiveness comes from doing the right things often enough that they become your default. Protect your winning behaviors. The world will offer distractions, shortcuts, trends, and easier paths. But easier is rarely better. When you find something that keeps you focused, grounded, and growing, stay with it. Progress does not come from chasing what's new. It comes from mastering what you've already begun. There is a difference between repetition and stagnation. Repetition builds strength when it is intentional. You are not just going through the motions. You are paying attention, adjusting slightly, staying connected to purpose. That awareness keeps repetition alive and growth moving forward. Never underestimate the power of small daily wins. Every repeated action is shaping how you see yourself. Discipline is not just improving your results. It is redefining your identity. You're becoming someone who follows through, someone who leads their day, someone who does not wait for change, but creates it. Every time you show up and do the work, especially when it's inconvenient, you build proof. And proof builds belief. Belief raises your standard. And when your standard rises, your life begins to match it. Winning behaviors are usually small, but they compound because you stack them. Each repetition adds strength, patience, focus, and confidence. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes normal. What felt unnatural becomes routine. What felt out of reach becomes who you are. Create structure that supports repetition. Use cues in your environment. Set reminders. Build routines that signal action. Your mind stays consistent when your world is organized to support it. The less you rely on willpower, the more reliable your progress becomes. Track your repetition, not loudly, but honestly. Acknowledge your streaks. Reflect on how far you've come. That quiet recognition reinforces the belief that effort matters, even when the results are still forming. Do not quit just because you think you should be further ahead. Mastery takes time. Growth is happening even when you can't see it yet, in your decisions, your reactions, your ability to handle pressure. Stay patient. Keep repeating. Let the compound effect work. Eventually, repetition becomes identity. And when behavior becomes identity, discipline no longer feels forced. You don't need motivation. You don't need hype. You act because this is who you are. That is the goal, to turn winning behaviors into standards. To build habits so strong they don't break under pressure. You cannot fake repetition. You cannot shortcut it, but you can commit to it. When you do, discipline stops feeling like punishment. Routine stops feeling like restriction. It becomes freedom. The freedom to live with clarity, confidence, and control. This is not about perfection. It is about consistency. Choosing to repeat what moves you forward, even when you're tired, even when results are slow, even when no one is watching. Winners repeat. They repeat the basics. They repeat the principles. They repeat the work until it sticks. This is your responsibility now. You already know what works. You've felt the difference. The only question is whether you will keep going long enough for it to become who you are. Not through dramatic effort, but through steady, repeatable action. Repetition builds success. Repetition builds peace. Repetition builds confidence and clarity. Because when you know what works and you keep doing it, doubt disappears. Confusion is replaced by action. Pressure turns into power. That is how you win, not once, but every single day, by repeating what works until it becomes part of you. And once it does, no setback can take it away.